Good morning, students. Today we are going to continue with our previous chapter that we were learning about the nationalism, and we studied few of the causes why the revolt of 87 or the nationalism feeling started, and various reasons how it impacted the fight for the independence. Now, in continuation, we are going to learn about the racial arrogance and the racial discrimination of the British ruler. Now, here it is stated as to how the Indians were neglected in various different ways, and they were not equally treated. They were considered to be inferior and uncivilized to their in regarding to their political status and in regarding to economic status of the people of India in the society. Now here it is stated that there are certain policies that were adopted by the British government, which not only socially, politically, economically, but even in the society they were discriminated in various different ways. Like if you see in point wise here mentioned that Indians were barred from using parks, clubs, hospitals, libraries, and railway coaches reserved exclusively for the Britishers. Means various important places, public places were even barred by the Britishers for the Indians to be used. Now, all the important positions in the administrative were most probably occupied by the Britishers. Certain places where they adopted a policy to employ Indians, still the Indians were not given that status or regards. Like in legislative assembly, a few Indians were nominated as a member, but still they were not given any kind of powers. And that stated what? That states that how they were discriminated in various different ways. So this is also one of the reasons why the feeling of disregardfulness and neglecting the Indian people being their own country was making them furious against the British government. Then the next is about the regressive policies of Lord Lytton. Here it talks about how Lord Lytton brought about various policies, and even not only the common people, even the educated people were suppressed in regarding to their own activities. Now the Vernacular Press Act that was been implemented. Now what does this act says? This act says that in regarding to expressing themselves in writings like newspapers, magazines, pamphlets were totally barred, which was anything which was printed or anything which was pressed upon, which was against the British government, was not allowed. Okay, and that deprived the people of India from their basic right of freedom of speech and expression. They could not express anything that they wanted. If there was anything wrong also done by the British government which they wanted to bring about in open writings through newspapers, magazines and pamphlets and etc., they were not allowed to do so. If anybody was found in such position, they were ruthlessly and unwantedly put into prison and they were tortured. The next is about the Arms Act. This Arms Act was implemented, whereas the Indians who carried weapons without license from the government, they were not allowed to use so. And this act, how it showed a discrimination, the discrimination was such that only it was barred against the Indian nationals and or the Indian peoples, which was not against the Europeans or the European people. The reduction of age of ICS examination. Now, Indian Imperial Civil Services examinations where government posts were allocated. Now, this was also been changed in regarding to what? The age of examination, which was earlier 21 years, was reduced to 19 years, which was quite difficult for the Indian peoples to attempt for. Okay, and the changes of the Indian chances of the Indian candidates of joining civil was gradually reduced, or it was lowered purposely by the British government, and this showed a kind of disrespect to the Indian people who were in regarding to educated society, or those who belong from the educated society. They felt themselves deprived of this opportunity And that is how these policies of Lord Ripon, which is in regarding to Vernacular Press Act, then the Arms Act, then the reduction of the ICS examination age, was quite a bit difficult for the educated society to see what the activities they want to do, the restrictions they wanted, the Britishers started putting upon them. Then there was a controversy that was brought forward by the Europeans, and that was known as the Ilbert Bill controversy. Now, what is this Ilbert Bill controversy? Now, this Ilbert Bill controversy was in regarding to the judgments that was being brought forward. Now, Lord Ripon, who was later on succeeded by Lord Lytton, wanted to bring some changes in the judiciary section. So what he did is that he brought about certain conditions where the Indians could also judge the European criminals. Now, that means what? If there was any person who did anything wrong against the Europeans, or any Europeans who had done a crime against the government, or any of the civil or criminal kind of activities, those criminals were brought forward, and Lord Ripon made a change that these cases can also be handled by the Indian judges. Now, this was totally not liked by the Europeans, and they started protesting against the government, stating that the Indians who might be highly educated, who might be in good educations, but they considered them incapable. They did not consider themselves, the Indian judges, to be capable enough to even judge the Europeans. So they wanted to bar, or they wanted to remove this act, or they wanted to remove these things from the total proceedings itself in the judiciary system. So there were a lot of agitation, lot of pressure that was built by the European people, and lastly it was considered that this act was totally removed. Now, this brought about a sense of discontentment or discouragement into the minds of the Indian judges, whereas they thought that these Europeans are considering themselves incapable. Then what is the use for them to get highly educated and sit in the place of the judges? So they started revolting against them. And in 1883, it was Surendranath Banerjee held an Indian National Conference, and within 2 years, it was later on that it was found that the Indian National Congress was born. Okay, now, how the Indian National Congress took birth? Let us go through it, which is one of the important aspects. So kindly listen to it very carefully and understand it. Now, as there was a full-fledged national protest and agitation against the British government, it was around 1885 when the Indian National Congress was brought forward. Now, to set up this organization, there was a very important role played by A.O. Hume, that is Alan Octavian Hume, and he was a retired British official of civil service. Now, he supported some of the Indian nationalists who were from highly late foundations or highly late society people. He asked them to form an organization under themselves and get few people under this organization which can bring forward their problems and their situations in front of the government in a better way. So the Indian National Congress later on was formed in 1885. The Indian National Congress was established by A.O. Hume, and accordingly what happened is that the few other important people or leaders who were associated with it got along with this organization, and they wanted to create a certain kind of environment where they can put forward their various basic requirements for the people of India in front of the British government. Now, the first session after this Indian National Congress or INC was established, the first session of the Congress was held in Bombay, which was around 18 December 1885, which was presided by W.C. Banerjee, and there were about 72 members who joined this meeting. Now, in this meeting, they they brought forward few important detailed manifestation where they wanted to come up and they wanted to bring about certain changes, and the aims, according to it, the aims that the Congress were asking or they wanted to bring about are variously pointed out here, that to promote a friendly relationship among the nationalist workers in different parts of the country. That was the aim of this Indian National Congress, for which for which it was formed. Secondly, to develop and strengthen feeling of national unity throughout the country. They wanted to urge every people, move towards every people, getting them together to have a feeling of unity, to have a sense, whereas to consider each and every person of being an Indian to unite together to fight against the British government. Okay, to formulate popular demand and to place them before the government, to see, go across various different places, understand the requirement and needs of the general people of India, and then get their demands placed before the government, that is the British government, and to train and organize public opinion in the country, to see that public are being reached to a larger extent and their opinions are being given so that they could work on those and bring about a better environment for the people of India. Now, the first session of the Congress ended with the delegates affirming their loyalty to the British Crown and declaring that their desire was greater involvement and participation of the Indians in the government. Now, what they wanted is that here what it states? It states that in this way they wanted to be loyal to the British government, but they also expected some important things that the British government had to do for the people of India. Now, they wanted more and more Indians to get acquainted with the various important posts or various important things in the government system, and they wanted more and more people to be involved in this. Now, this soft conciliatory attitude of Congress would in 44 years time be transformed into strident empathetic demand for Purna Swaraj. Now, what does it mean is that this continued attitude of the Indians or the INC that was formed was quite normal and was a sympathetic kind of attitude towards the British government, where they peacefully wanted to bring forward things to the British government. But later on, as the time went on, as the British government kept on changing their words, which was seen by the Indian National Congress, few of the members of the Indian National Congress, the procedures of or the thinkings or the aims of the INC changed from one part to the another, and that is considered as that they started adopting various aggressive kind of mode, where they later on started to demand for Purna Swaraj. So this is how the initial stage of movement started, where a sense of Indian nationalism or Indian nationalism fight or fight for the freedom of the country started, and which later on gave a new phase to the nationalism fight or independence fight. Now, in the next chapter, we are going to learn more about the Indian national movement, whereas we will learn about various nationalist fighters, moderates, and their demands and their contribution towards the nationalism, and how various people contributed in various different ways. Okay, so this is all for today's class, and the notes and other details will be given to you in the next class, and we'll be continuing at the same. Thank you very much and have a good day.